Now we're off to visit Danielle McDaniel, also known as the Clay Lady. Since 1982, Danielle has taught the art of clay to over 500,000 students and has been so successful, her techniques and products are being used by art teachers across the country. We visited Danielle's Nashville studio, where she shared some of her secrets for being a successful teacher of art.
My name's Danielle McDaniel, and everybody calls me the Clay Lady. I started teaching about 30 years ago, and when I would walk into the schools, the kids would run through the hallways and say, "It's the Clay Lady, it's the Clay Lady." And I decided it was a really nice title, so I started calling myself the Clay Lady. So I started teaching out of my basement and going into the schools, but that expanded so much that I recently opened up a 3,000 square foot studio next to Mid-South Ceramic Supply. And now all the schools come to me. So we are fully booked over the next couple weeks with field trips, with grade levels coming to me to see the studio, and not only the studio, but also the supply business to find out where the raw materials come from that make the clay and make the clay paints that they use. And recently just opened up an artist co-op so that the students can see professional artists making a living, making things out of clay. What I love about clay is that it has complete forgiveness built in. If it doesn't work out, you just wad it up and start again. And clay gives you immediate gratification. There's something very primal about clay. That when clay comes into an artist's hands, it's coming directly from the earth. There's no processing that happens between the earth and the artist's hands. And I think the artists feel that. And I think that's why when people take their first clay class, it's immediately satisfying to them. You know, it's pretty awesome that you can go from a raw material, a piece of dirt. You can add water, you can add the human spirit, and then you can put it in the kiln that goes over 2,000 degrees to bring it to its almost melting point. And it's really fascinating that you can go from just a piece of dirt to something you can actually drink out of or eat out of, something that will outlast you and I. And they're dishwasher safe. So traditionally, clay has to go through 2 firings for completion, but because I was going into the schools and only had an hour with the kids, I had to develop the Clay Lady way. The kids get to make and paint their projects in one sitting. After the project becomes bone dry, they can dip it in a clear glaze and just do a one-time firing, which cuts the traditional way of teaching clay or making things out of clay in half. And that's what I teach art teachers, because they really enjoy having that process cut down into a shorter period of time. So the job of an artist is to take something ordinary, like a little ball of clay just made out of different kinds of dirt and water, adding the best of themselves to this little ordinary ball of clay and making that ball of clay the best it can be. There is no such thing as a perfect piece of art. There is no such thing as reaching the upper echelon of what the best art is. It's making the best of yourself real in this ordinary thing. So I have a little poem that I teach my clay cadets, kids or adults, that being an artist is when you take what you think, take what you feel, mix it all up, and make something real. And this works not just for clay, but for anything. You can be an artist by making your best reel with a pencil, paint, words, music, the way you fix your hair, fix a car, build a house, or cook a meal. You can even be an artist with a basketball. But it's when you take ordinary things and add the best of yourself, that's being an artist. So today we're doing a raku firing. It's actually a takeoff, an Americanized version of a Japanese way of firing. The raku family, 800 years ago, won a contest that the emperor had put out across the land for a new tea set. And when you're watching our raku firing, you'll see us take the pots out of the kiln at 1,800 degrees. We have to use these long tongs because of the heat, and then we're going to put them in a can of combustible material, which will bring 2 different surface decorations. One will be a crackle look, which is a traditional raku, and then also we have different glazes that will bring a copper or a luster look. I think that there are 2 kinds of art teachers. There are artists who became teachers, and there are teachers who happen to be teaching art. I think if I wasn't teaching clay, I'd still be teaching. I enjoy the teaching part of class. And probably the most fun for me is when the new students come in and I have to learn what kind of learner they are. Are they a visual learner, tactile learner? Do they learn from having the steps? And to be able to connect with each student individually to help them learn as quickly as they can. Well, I am all self-taught. I did have a little college, but nothing in clay. And because of my experience with on-the-job training, I have learned a lot and had to do a lot of self-education. There is an advantage to going to college and being a fine arts or a ceramics major. I have a nice young lady who works for me, Meredith. She's only been out of college for 2 years. Now in my 30 years, I've probably thrown 5 teapots, and so you can imagine my expertise. But in her 4-year college degree, as well as 2 years, she's probably thrown 30 or 50 teapots, which makes her a much better ceramicist or a much better potter than I am. To teach art, you really need to have the heart of a teacher and to understand that there's no one right answer. If you're a math teacher, there's one right answer. If you're a science teacher, there's one right answer. But with art, there are many right answers. And to create a space for your students to know that their expression is the right answer.
Thanks, Danielle. If you'd like to learn more about the Clay Lady, we have a link on volstate.edu/Vol Presents. You can view more segments from our show by visiting our website at volstate.edu/Vol Presents.